y'all? It's your boy C-Roll Money, that's C.R.O. host of the Nerd with Friends podcast. I'm joined today with my co-host, Codename Comment.
Salutations, my fellow blurs, nerds, and peaceful herds. It's your boy Codename Comment. How y'all doing?
Thank you all for listening today. Whether you're a new listener or an old listener, we're glad to have you here. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to follow us on social media. Been making a lot of fun content. Really excited for y'all to check it out. All links in the description. So you've been listening with us for a while, all the way back in season 3 of the podcast. We talk about some different projects that me and Codename have been working on. And one of those is finally about to be released. So joining us on the first episode of a new series called Behind the Pages, please welcome artist and illustrator of our upcoming comic Viroco, Mike Bishop.
Hey, Mike Bishop, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
We in the middle.
Some cool stuff in there.
This your first time, right?
I was like, I should have had my code name ready. I was ready for that.
We got to start letting people know in the briefing, hey, man, if you got a code name, you can drop it here.
Oh, yeah. So you can say all that once you tell the people about yourself, Mike.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I am an art teacher, and I've known Chris for a long time. We went to high school together. And we've been working on this series for a couple of years now. It's gone through a couple of different drafts, and we're definitely excited to kind of get it out. I've been drawing since I was little. I have a heavy comic book and anime style. I can be a little bit of a perfectionist, and I know it's bothered Chris a bit with our comic. It was up to me.
It bothered you more than me.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm also doing freelance art and other stuff too, just to help definitely get more of that artwork out there.
Got to, man. That's awesome, bro.
Know where they can find you at on social media. Drop your handle.
Yeah, so you guys can find me. It's at Mike B Illustrations, and it's BEE like the bug. So it's Mike B Illustrations on social media and on Facebook. And then you could also find me on TikTok.
That boy be doing the flash shit.
I'm hanging out with the middle schoolers, so I'm hip to TikTok.
He understands the tickety talks.
Right.
So I ain't gonna lie. I thought I was hip. And the minute I started using it, I realized just how much I didn't know a damn thing about anything.
Different.
At this bold age of mine, I look at TikTok as like a work thing. It's not like I got on Facebook and Twitter to like talk to people and do a thing. I look at TikTok like, man, this is a job. Learn on it.
It's such a process just to do stuff on that bitch. But I think it is a perfect. It has a certain element that is different, and I think for the storytelling aspect of it, what we've been doing, what you guys have been working on, and what I was so honored to be able to letter on, my first little lettering credit. I think TikTok could be a lane that you choose to release this in a way. Like there's a lot that you can do with this story. I feel like I remember when Chris mentioned Viroco for the very first time. I feel like it was just one of them random ass conversations, and we were talking about different power systems because I believe I don't know if Hunter x Hunter had just came out or Chris had just caught it, because the power system of Nin just blew Chris's mind, and he was like, yo, I got to do something with like this, bro. And just to see like how far it's come, just to see like you mentioned, like it's gone through many iterations. I was lucky to see a lot of those iterations, and I thought every part of it was just dope. So to see, it from the very beginning, when it was just, like he said, behind the pages, when it was just a thought, to see where it is today and to know where it's going to be in the future is just, it's just cool to be a part of the process and even be able to just see the process from afar.
Yeah, so this is a very special series we're going to do now. Like, we've stated before, we're all artists here, whether we're writing stories or, doing actual like graphic design and art. And I think this would be a cool thing to incorporate for every issue of every story we get coming out, to have this accompanying podcast to go along with it, just to kind of give some inside information like on our thoughts and how we think the issue's going, how the series is going, maybe some chances to answer questions that people have. Just a real good opportunity to engage with the listeners, the readers, however you decide to take in the information. So if you're listening to this, either you're been listening to the podcast for a while, or you happen to scan that QR code on the back of the book. Either way, welcome again. This is really exciting to be doing this. And I guess first things first, this first issue, it took a lot to get here. Me and Mike have kids that are in kindergarten now. When we started this, it was probably like a month before they were born.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning process. And it's like my kid has grown along with the book,
right?
Just learning the different things, the different formats. Because at one point we were looking at doing a webtoon format, and then we just completely changed from that. Like we have almost enough for like a whole webtoon chapter that maybe we'll just release as like a special chapter at some point.
Yeah,
but
oh my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, but just going through that whole process with it, just going from your ideas and the designs that you came up with and the story, and then being able to help you visualize that and to put that to the page and see it really come to life on the page and see these characters really take form. Because it's interesting because they went from just being like this idea that you had to now that it's like we've been working with them so much, it's like I know what they look like, right?
Yeah. Now, what would you say that was like, when you get to a point where, your character comes to life, Chris, or, for you, Mike, when you think about what Chris has told you, you get the idea, you start to build this identity of what you see the character in your head. And then you start going back and forth and you're like, nah, based on like his personality, this is how he would operate. Like, what do you guys feel about, the end result? Like, do you feel like you're able to properly capture, what the interpretation of that character is? At least like some of your characters, like who do you feel like, really did it? Do you feel like there's areas to improve? Because it's step one. So, you expect, I remember when watching, One Piece for the first time and seeing how gangly Luffy is. I feel like Luffy got some muscle to him now, but it's so, what do y'all feel like that process was like?
For me, it's definitely interesting because we did start with the characters being older and then we decided to make them younger. So that was one of the first changes that we had. And then just to really see them come into their own look and styles. Because originally they kind of started looking out like a black Shotokan character, like Black Ryu or Ken, kind of as the start, because they had like that gi outfit. And then the more that it changed and started to fit, and then also just the more that my style started to change and kind of fit for comic, seeing them really fit into the style of what they'll ultimately really look like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, kind of echoing that sentiment. Like this story, it started from like an idea that me and a couple of my friends had like all the way back in like, I think it was like 5th grade. Mm. So even like the main characters that you see in this first issue is like, you don't even get to see like the main characters, because really it was just about like these 3 characters at first that, you'll see later on that get introduced. But like over the years, like they've changed so much a lot of the influence in this came from like, clearly Dragon Ball Z. Like that's where everybody gets their start. Everybody wants to do the next Dragon Ball Z. Who didn't have a drawn Goku on their binder at some point?
It's
Yeah.
You had one of them,
right?
Yeah, so to finally like see them, and even in my head, like it started off a lot more lighthearted, like similar to something like a Shaolin Showdown. And then I got more into anime, and it turned into something I think is more akin to like a Naruto.
Yeah.
So just seeing like the different faces and forms that they all have, and now finally seeing like a definitive face for the characters is really got me excited, motivated to go on to the next, get the rest of them out, get this whole story out.
Well, I can only imagine you started to get that, that urge to see the rest of the story play out. Like it becomes more of you just being the writer, but, in part, you're the fan too. You want to see it just as much as the people that you want to show it to. So that's awesome, man. It's cool. Now, Mike, is this your first chance to do this, or have you drawn stories before?
It's my first comic, and comic I've been a part of that whole building process, because I've illustrated books before, and I used to always draw comics, but they're a little like fun, joking comics that like me and my friends.
Yeah.
And first time to really go through that process. I did a little bit of like editing for other comics, but it's first to go through that whole process of sketching it out. Being more so responsible for the composition and everything. And it's also, it just gives you the opportunity, especially for us being blurs, like being mixing our nerd culture along with Black culture into it.
Yeah.
Have our faces kind of like onto that. Because even though it's changed a lot, the media has kind of changed to show a lot more, you see a lot more representation of Black characters now. When we were first kind of looking at it, that wasn't really the case 6 years ago. No. And so you do see it kind of blow up a lot more, and it's great to see. And it is great to kind of be a part of that and to put something out so for people to see, because especially like middle school kids, and just to see like there are kids still in the Dragon Ball Z now. Like I had a student who's drawn Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. And I'm like,
classics.
Characters, and just how that to have that type of impact, and for it to, it's almost like that legacy in a way, and for us to also include like that Black culture within it, because like for Chanje, like his design changed based off of when Chadwick passed away, and so we changed his design to look a little bit more like Chadwick.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that was something that we had changed, because he changed from looking more from a Jim Kelly type 70s karate looking to a little bit more of like that Chadwick at the Met Gala look that he had.
Okay.
And so we wanted to pull that influence and kind of put that into it. And it's something that I'm kind of excited to do a little bit in a way, to where how Oda's able to pull from popular media and put it into his comic. I feel like that's something that we could do as well too. And it represents us as a culture, and people will get it too.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's going to be that it changes the way that people are going to view it, because now you're not only viewing it in a way that it's like you fall in love with the characters, but you start falling in love with the little pieces of, nods to representation that you're getting within that story. And like you said, when you're, Black like us, like you kind of relish in that, like you relish in having, moments that you can really resonate with. And I feel like with, the story of young Tyren Shuja, I feel like it does that in a really good way. And I love to see the transition of, the design. Because like you said, like even as I was, doing the lettering and stuff like that, I could tell as your artwork was getting better. Like I could tell, like when you were, he was like, oh, you learned something new, because it's like this one, you weren't doing this at the beginning. It's like, that's awesome that I could see it transition over time, like even in this first chapter. And it wasn't like there was like it wasn't like going from novice to advanced. It was like, oh no, you can tell that he's learned a new technique, and now he's starting to apply that new technique in different areas. And so like this being just, like I said, step one, you know, when y'all get to even 2, I can only imagine it's going to look different.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely excited too, because it's the change in the technology that we had. Yeah. And because it was my first time really doing it kind of from like the ground up in a way, we did experiment with like a lot of different ways of doing it. And I experimented with a lot of different ways of doing the pages too, to see what best fit for me. Because I can draw traditionally and digitally. Mm-hmm. And so some of the pages I drew it out traditionally to see how it transitioned over into me drawing digitally. And then also with me just having, going through, I have a bunch of different tablets that I've used. I've used Clip Studio, I've used Procreate, I've used Photoshop for like some pages.
Jeez.
Really kind of experiment.
Just ran through the gambit just to, hey, whatever works.
But it's just to see like what really works best for me. And when it came down to it, Procreate really fit the best for me. And then just really getting all the tools for that kind of down for myself. I feel like I have the best setup for that too.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, it's funny, this being your first one, how many times I had to drag you back into it to to finally get this done. Oh. Man, I remember at one point I was like, all right, we'll just switch it to just a card game. And then what was it? It was like just taking a break for a while. And
yeah,
like this
I have that file in my Procreate. It's funny to look at because it's like it's 20 pages, but that file in my Procreate is like 89 pictures. Wow. A whole folder.
So, like I'm really telling y'all, like it took a while to get here. Like we started like so many different points. Like, you know, the first issue, it kind of starts with a small background, not giving too much of just like the overall what Viroco is, because it's really a story about the power system and everything that's involving it played out through these characters. And we named it Viroco because of the power system, because that's kind of like the main character here. Like everything is kind of centered around this power source and like what it can do. And there are 7 different types based off the 7 different colors in the spectrum, from red all the way to violet. You saw one at the end. Damn, it's crazy. I forgot that nigga's name. I've seen it so many times.
Borgo using the red?
Wow. Yeah, we see Borgo.
Oh, to be fair, we've gone through a bunch. Like they're only like
this the name Borgo is likely very new.
And different names for stuff.
Shoot, Tyren's name wasn't Tyren when it all began. When this began,
Tyren has had many names.
Right.
If I did not watch Game of Thrones last year, his name probably would have been something else.
That's funny. I never thought about it like that. I never thought about it like that. That one time that you just happened to binge Game of Thrones because you had the time.
That's where I snatched it from.
Made a change. Hey, it's a dope name.
I can make something work with that. Yeah, we see him, and he's a guardian that's represented by the red color, and their power is essentially like hockey in One Piece. You can use it to strengthen yourself, improve yourself. It like heightens all your senses. You can code it on different objects. And as we see when he's fighting Tyren, who's, you know, giving them good hands first, which kudos Mike, those were some great. Those were some of my favorite panels in the issue. Though.
Oh yeah, he was whooping ass, boy. Just giving straight hands.
Yeah, and shout out to you for the lettering code name. Like that really came together good for that.
You know, when you got good artwork, it's not hard to just say, "Hey, this artwork just needs a little bit of sound effects to really make it pop." Because a kick without the it's just not enough. It's just not enough.
Yeah, and we and some of those other ones, like you see the fight with Chanje and Zandara play out a little bit more. But I think it's good we saved it, because I feel like just as we grow as artists, you know, drawing, writing these fight scenes, that's one that's going to come later on in the story, and it'll be after we we know what the powers are like better. We know more about these characters from the lore that's going to get built up about them. And when we have this flashback, it'll be better than what we can produce now.
Yeah, like we could do it justice.
Yeah.
It'd be like if like that Kakashi Gaiden story was like done in that original Naruto type style.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine if like the Roger flashback was done in like 90s?
Right.
Oh my God. And it's funny that you mentioned, I just watched that. I could have never imagined that fight happening that way.
Like, I'm sure you weren't waiting to hear like a One Piece spoiler. I mean, I'll keep it at least little spoilery as possible. But like, we're going to get like God Valley and like this updated like 2020 style animation. Like, it's going to look amazing. So it's really good that some of these stories aren't told in the beginning. Like, imagine if we ever see like All Might and All for One's fight, and All Might beat him that one time. Like, how great that's going to look. So, come back to Viroco. And it's, as somebody who is, I'm not going to say on the outside looking in, but, you know, what did you think reading through this while you were lettering it, like as a story? What were your thoughts on this first issue?
So my thought, honestly, as a story, I felt like the way that this transition was absolutely perfect. I felt like it gave you just enough to want the next panel, not even so much just the next like chapter, but literally the next panel. Like the transition from piece to piece, the story really drags you, it really pulls you in a kind of captivating type of way. And even to me, in a way, it shows how much you grew up around like Saturday morning cartoons and watching like anime at its core, because that opening, you know, to me, it almost feels like an opening credit scene when it like, and I think it used to say Viroco. No, it still does. Yeah, the opening credit, like the opening essentially credit scene, it transitions like animation. And I don't know if I actually told you that, but like every portion of it really does translate like it's already an animated scene, or like it's built to be an animated scene. And I thought that in itself already creates a certain like theme of just fluidity that a lot of stories don't typically have at the beginning like this. And maybe it's because I know more about it, so I know where it's already going to go. But seeing this was knowing how it's going to be released. I feel like this is going to have people asking for more as fast as possible. So I think it was like, personally, as a first time, I think it's a 10 out of 10. Like, I don't think there was anything that I would really critique, because not even like I'm putting y'all on a low level. I just feel like it really superseded what I ever could have imagined out of it, because it gives you everything and shows you where it's going to be at the same time.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind of words. We appreciate it.
And that cover alone, sheesh.
That cover is tough.
Yo, that cover.
It's funny because it wasn't the original cover, but then then once I that one, I was like, oh yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, you can really go catch people with the cover, like the cover, the first couple pages, and that very last page. That's what makes you like, oh shit, this is tough.
Yeah, when I got the physical copy for the first time of the book, and then getting to see that cover, I was like, ooh. I was like,
I did that.
Like, I've had a book before, and I was like, okay, like I don't really like how the art came out, because it was my first time using Procreate. And I don't like the printing process that the I had to go with, but it was just seeing the art, and it didn't really excite me in the same way as seeing how I progress now and seeing that art now in the book. And I definitely say hats off to Chris too with the change. I feel like the change that we've had to this new first issue, it really sets up the story. It really comes off as the first episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
And it's definitely exciting to see, not just as kind of reading it, because it's interesting to be on the other side of it, because you know the story, you have an idea of it in your head, and even when you're drawing it and you're seeing the pages, but you're not seeing them really all come together until that book is finished and with the word.
Yeah, that makes sense.
See it, it's almost like it is like reading it for the first time, and then you become a reader. And so it's interesting to being on the other side of that, to want to push that, I want to get more of this out so I can see this some more.
Yeah, because it's like you want to see it come out of your head. It's like, oh, this feels great now. And then, and I know, as an artist myself, I know in the process of doing certain things, you get that muscle memory. So you're like, oh, now that I've gotten out of this, I can probably make him do this. I can make this kick look like this now. Like you might, even in the process of just watching television, like you start seeing, okay, you start slowing down stuff. Okay, how did that happen? How does this look? How does this look? How does this look? So now you know how to draw that. It's like you're just, I look forward to like every single part, because like I said, like one of my absolute favorite panels is that Shuja kick. When I say you absolutely thrashed the anatomy in that body structure. Perfect. It's like a perfect kick. Like I can tell you watched and saw someone who's done that in person. Like it shows. So it's like I like knowing you like an actual anime fan. Like you're gonna see more and more of that, and it's just gonna start incorporating in your artwork.
You got a little martial arts background too, right?
What happened?
I said you got a little bit of martial arts background too.
As I say, and I think that's something that stood out to me too a little bit more after doing this first issue. Part of the reason why that kick does stand out a lot more, because my base for that kick was real life.
That makes sense.
More like either cartoon or anime references, and having like an MMA fight, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do a head kick, and I looked up different videos of head kicks, and that's why I felt like the anatomy for it definitely.
Yeah, it flows very very well. Like it doesn't look stiff. Like you can see the slight bend in his arm. Like it looks like you watch someone do it over and over again.
And it's one of those funny things too, with like how long we've been working on Viroco and just getting more into it. Like Chris can tell you, I'll hit him up all the time because I'm always following different art stuff, and we're watching, like we watch MMA, and like I'll be like, oh hey, this looks like it could fit kind of a little bit for something in Viroco. Like style wise, and like I'll hit them up for stuff like that all the time. And so I find myself more and more finding different influences and stuff I want to input into the story.
Nice. That's awesome.
I remember one of the things we talked about really early on was having like each kind of class have their own fighting style.
Like style? That'd be cool.
So definitely looking forward to see like more of the classes come out, the different Viroco classes, and seeing like how they fight and use their powers differently.
I think we even have a document that has the fighting styles like listed.
Bro, we have so many docs across so many different emails. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a document, read through it just to realize that it hasn't been open since 2018.
But we had I think we had like a page missing at one point.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we did. It's like, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
Yeah, because you were like, I was reading this document. I don't remember this page. I was like,
because I was like, am I lettering this wrong?
Yeah.
It's like something's off.
Yeah,
and I was like, wait a minute, that's why.
Yeah. This has been through a lot, and I think one of the biggest turning points is after we got the first like test copy you were talking about earlier. We decided to go through a company named Kablam. Shout out to them. They did real good work. If you got it, you see like it's nice quality paper, covers, solid. Like it makes the colors really pop, the front and the back. And like sitting there reading it, it's like it feels so different than sitting there like looking at the panels like after they've been weighted to like have like the physical book and like turn the page. And I still haven't gotten the joy I want just because that first issue had so many problems. Like I think we might have like
the cover definitely gives you that feeling, but then we definitely went through and did those editing changes, and then definitely having that is definitely one of those things where, because we have that one image that's supposed to be that spread, but we had them on the wrong page numbers because we didn't realize that page numbers shifted down one. So they're all on like one page instead of like a double page spread.
I didn't even think about that. Damn. Yeah. That's hilarious.
I mean, the cover on the back, it was like just the back. And now we got like this QR code to listen to the podcast. We've got like an episode, like more of a summary on the back.
Yeah.
We used to have the preview of the next cover already on there. We'll hold on.
But I say these ideas is fire when they're able to get executed properly. Shit.
And that's been one of the biggest things for us. And I feel like why going forward it'll be a lot easier to put out the issues because we went through those growing pains in a way. Yeah. And then to really have the book out there. And it's really the biggest thing I get from like TikTok too, because I follow a lot of Black creators on there. One of the big ones I follow is Ace Blade Comics. He's definitely some shout out to him. He even let me do a variant comic for his comic Ace Blade, but he put out a lot of this stuff as far as like with his comic and like with the issues, and to see like how big he is with his comics, and like he has 6 issues, and to see that, okay, this is more of a feasible thing where it's not mine. It's like, oh, like it's got to be like 20 issues or something to like really out there. But to really have that focus to get these down. And I definitely want it to be a steady schedule with these coming out, because I know that's something that can kill it. Because I know for me, I always joke about Hunter being hiatus because how long of a break it's been. I know that can kill that that momentum. And just to be able to really just take all these different things that just been learning over the years, and just to really see the fruits of our labor with this, and to have the opportunity to push it out and for people to really see it is exciting.
Yeah, social media has been real big. If y'all following the podcast, we've been cranking out some real good content. I'm really looking forward to like the content on social media that's going to come from this. You know, like we talked about all those pages we haven't used. I think TikTok would be a great place to put them.
Yeah.
You know, Instagram, do some carousel posts, kind of like before and after. I really want
that would be dope. Yeah.
Do a lot of dope stuff showing like what used to be, what could have been. Like we've gone through so many iterations. Like even the main character Tyren, he's gone through so many like different personalities and emotions and feelings. He's been the kind of Goku where he's like an airhead and he's calm-hearted and good-hearted. He's been the angsty kid where he's leave me alone.
The Sasuke's of the world.
Now we're kind of like in this, I don't know, he's kind of like coming to his own as like this kind of maybe like a Yusuke where he's kind of just doing his own thing, a little bit of an asshole.
He's Tyren.
Yeah,
he's Tyren. He's
Tyren.
Yeah, Tyren.
Little proud, little arrogant, but at the same time, it's like you could tell he cares about his family. You can tell he's somebody who's very very grounded in, you know, what he believes in. But he, you know, with that arrogance, you know, sometimes you got to get your ass whooped a little bit, and that's what's happening in this first chapter. And I think that's what he needed. But one thing I gotta ask, you know, we see Borgo, the alleged ass whooper, using, you know, the Guardian level of Viroco, what are some of the other stages? Like, what are some of the other colors? You mentioned that, there's one for every 7 color of the rainbow. Like, what would be, what beats the Guardian? What would he need to actually win this fight? Or does it work like that? Is it more of the mastery of the individual, skills, I guess?
I think it's definitely like the mastery, because I think part of it, I think about Avatar and the different elements, like you can say like water beats fire.
Yeah, like they cancel each other out, almost like those little video games, like the little Naruto's and shit. Yeah, one color beats the other color.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the mastery of your own power.
Okay.
Because a skilled guardian, they can beat, like, say, the blue power is elemental.
Okay.
So everybody that has that power, they can control a different element. Each one only gets one element. So if you're a fire elemental, you can control fire. If you're a earth elemental, you control earth. If you're a, water, so on and so forth. So if you're a lower level guardian, like you can only, make yourself like 2% stronger. You can't do much. There's a good chance you're going to get with somebody who can control lightning and let you get hit by lightning.
Yeah. So you would say that to some extent you do have a.
If you're a higher level guardian, you can be like All Might, and you can punch them and they can blow up. They're not going to get a chance to hit you with lightning. Or you're so fast you'll dodge it.
Gotcha. So you would say there's like some level of or some semblance of like a hockey system where it's not just about what your actual power is, but it's also the scale of that power by you being, someone who actually makes it stronger, or if you're someone who just focuses on the fact that you have it. Someone who may be on the Asta sense of I'm gonna get physically tough because I know that my magic won't be enough. Or someone who's like, nah, like on the sense where he first started. I don't need to be physically tough. My magic is all I'll ever need type shit. A little bit of both.
Just the way it kind of works is something that you learn. Like you have to be taught how to, merge those two energies and use. So it kind of starts there. It's kind of like, learning and mastering. Then you've got to go through all these different steps before you really get to use your power and
to its first where it becomes more like personal.
Exactly. So
gotcha.
There's different classes within the different. There's different ranks within the different classes.
I gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
At the very top, you have your Grandmaster. That's the strongest. That's the one that's like the head of the temples. Those are the temples you see on that last page. Tyren, tapping into Chanje's power and awakening, letting the world know that he's back. Mm-hmm. And the Grandmaster is the strongest of each class. And then under those, you have Masters, where they are pretty much right there. If something were to happen to the Grandmaster, the Master's there. And you can have more than one Master. If you just reached the plateau, you're a Master. Kind of like a Jonin in Naruto. Below the Masters, you have the Knights. Those are the ones that are those higher level and like fighting, like I don't know, what is it, tuning?
I think it's just tuning, and then Genning's at the lowest level. Yeah,
probably like that would probably be like your tunings, and then we see, I don't think they have a name at the moment. We haven't gotten there yet. Like I said, the story's still growing and breathing. Right. There's a lot of things that are pieced out,
and that's one of the cooler things about it. It's like,
but you also have some rare occasions where somebody can be born and have it activated in a sense. Very rare occasions that happens.
I assume you got a character for that somewhere.
There's a character for everything, everywhere. It's a lot of characters in this thing too.
So who would you say are some of the characters that we should be looking forward to in the next chapter, if any?
Ooh, let's see, Mike. Have you read the second one all the way through yet?
I know I read the original one, and then I'm not sure.
The original.
You got different
That's hilarious.
But I would definitely be on the lookout because it's going to be the I want to say the main, basically kind of like the main three are introduced, right?
Nice.
We already
okay.
And then the other two will definitely show up in the new chapter, and you'll get to see a little bit more, definitely more of like Loxley too, which is one of the he's in the majority of the first issue, so it's just getting to see a little bit more of that too.
Okay.
Yeah, Loxley was the one Chanje was talking to at the when he in that death scene.
In the very beginning.
That passed along the bandana. He told him to lead them. Loxley is the Grand Master Supreme. So we talked about the ranks earlier, where the Grand Master, each class has a Grand Master. The Grand Master Supreme is like on top of all those.
So kind of like the Supreme Kai.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. So, what can you tell us about, the epic fight in the beginning? Who's Chanje, who's Zandara? What do they have to do with this story? And, is this going to be like, are we looking, his it don't completely rhyme, but Zandara sound like Madara. I mean, is he coming back?
Yeah, so Chanje and Zandara, classic story of good and evil. They both were the only two people able to use all 7 different abilities. And they just freakishly strong. You kind of hit it on the head with the Madara illusion. It's pretty much Madara and Hashirama in a sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Mirror kind of to it. And it is one of the things where we were talking about as far as like their fight, why we definitely feel like it'll be better later on, because it's like the first fight that we kind of drew, and not bad, but it definitely doesn't do it justice, because they're using all 7 of like the abilities in it, and to really get to see all those abilities on display, because it's kind of like Naruto when they first had the legendary signing fight, right? When you first saw that level, and you're like, oh shit, like they out there like that.
Yeah.
Like as compared to like the lower level fights. But it's something that we definitely felt like should be seen later on, and you guys get to kind of grow with Tyren, because Tyren's new to the world of Viroco. He's going from somebody that has experience with fighting, but learning more about these different powers with Viroco, and learning it kind of the hard way by fighting, kind of getting his butt kicked by somebody with it. So yeah.
And I gotta say that like it's impressive for y'all to have the forethought to know that, like, when you're starting a brand new show, like to know that, hey man, like as good as we want this to be, because I know like when you're starting any project, the first thing you go into is your big headed ideas. So I know like that go into it with such a major thought process of what the story is gonna be, and not want to give too much of that away, because you know that just naturally as you continue to get better at this, you're gonna be able to do more. So to try to give the biggest fight of all time at the very beginning of the story, knowing that you may not be able to produce that in the way that you're going to be able to produce that when you're actually there in the story, and transitioning the story that way, like to me, that's something next level. Now, granted, I'm a novice. I don't know no better myself. But to me, I just think that going into it with that mindset just shows that you're smart enough not only to, master or become a master of that, the present moment, but you're also, preparing yourself from a future that you're going to build yourself to. And I think, in a way that we are now producing this conversation, you're now showing the people of, this is the most human way to present a story. You're telling people literally, hey, like what you're about to see is not the first copy. Like what you're about to see, it was not the first draft. And I don't feel like a lot of people really get that in depth. And I think, showing people this part of it, it really gets you even more involved, because not only do you want to be involved in the storytelling, but you want to see the transition based on like maybe some other stuff that you'll see in real life.
Yeah. And another aspect of this that I'm glad we're doing, that's going to be in the description of the podcast episode, is a small playlist of beats. Those were created by a good buddy of mine, Arby June. Check out that link. It's kind of like an accompanying soundtrack we're going to do for issues to something to listen to while you read, to kind of give it that feeling of a TV show. Because, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I believe if we had the capabilities like right now, like just the time and the resources, we'd go straight into a show, like a comic. A comic is fun, but I think even the way that, you mentioned it, like just kind of the way
it transitions like a television show.
It's in our heart to hearts. I think it was a show that got converted.
Yeah.
To comic. And I think that's a good and a bad, not a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it gives us a chance to do something new.
Yeah.
I think it's just something we have to keep in check, knowing the limits with comics.
Yeah.
Or for me, I even view it maybe even like a little bit of a step further past it. Like I still view it as like a franchise already. It's like stuff as like I told Chris once, because I downloaded RPG Maker on my computer. I was like, hey, we could do a Viroco game. Like, hey, it could be an RPG game and just see different just real aspects of it. And it's something that I look at and I'm very big on, because like I've consumed anime like since I can remember. And like I've watched so many different animes. There are so many animes, like I could go back and probably rewatch them and it'd be like brand new to me because it's been so long. But it's just definitely seeing the change in anime culture and the impact that it can have, and just taking that also into account with our comic, just like how iconic those vests are in like Naruto. That vest, that style, or the
walking around seeing people with the headbands. You got, because eventually you'll be able to draw like I assume the little band around their waist. It might have certain insignias that show differently for each place like that.
Because that outfit has grown over time, and definitely Tyren's outfit has grown over time, and I definitely like where it's landed at, because he really did look like a generic video game Shoto character at like the start. So it's just it's really cool to see that growth and that change.
So another thing that I'm really looking forward to with this is, more than just the story. Like you talked about, making a game. We mentioned earlier, like doing a trading cards. I definitely want to do a trading card game. I think it'll make more sense to introduce later once we get a better idea of the world that's being established and people can kind of strategize around the stuff that they've read in the books. But Mike, a lot of these visuals are going to come from you, like when we start doing like shirts and stuff. Like, what are some things you're looking forward to getting out there?
Definitely like the just the overall design for it, and just definitely seeing the impact it'll have too with just the overall representation too, because that's always been big for me, is having that Black representation and having characters, and just seeing like the impact that Miles Morales has now, because like we didn't really fully have that growing up. Like Cliffsing, I was like, I remember when Blade came out, but definitely having that impact where kids being excited for it, and just having some of that, that different merchandise and designs out for it, and something to where it's iconic, to where a kid could just see like the logo and know, oh yeah, that goes with Viroco.
No, I definitely understand that. It definitely changes everything when you're able to bring something to life, and then you take you kind of go back to those days when you were a little kid and you were looking for those things, and it's just like it just makes it just means a little bit everything to you, because you're able to fill a gap that you were looking for. But at the same time, you feel a little bit emboldened by the fact that it's going to be you doing it now. It's going to be you, leading that, leaving that charge for the next generation to eventually be doing it for the next generation. So it's cool to be, along the process,
Yeah. So let's wrap this up on one final question. I'm going to shoot this out to the both of y'all. I'm going to start with you, Mike. What are you looking forward to in the next issue without being too spoilery?
In the next issue, I'm definitely looking forward to the conclusion of the fight with him and Borgo, and just to really see just more of the world of Viroco, because we got to get a little bit into the world building of it, and just to really get more into the world building.
Awesome. Codename?
I'm looking forward to see the more characters. Like I want to get like more involved into, like you said, the world of Viroco, and see more than just this area. I'm looking forward to seeing like it all kind of come to life a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing just the way the story progresses. A big part of me was very hesitant to start slow. I think about some of the more recent manga and anime I've watched. Like, they come out guns blazing, like nice epic fights, epic showcases of power. But then I think about some of the classics like One Piece, Naruto, and they kind of start off slower. Like we mentioned before, like the first fight could have been the biggest battle that's probably ever going to happen in this story. And instead, we scaled it down to a low-level person whose power is to just be strong and a skilled fighter. So there's really like nowhere to go but up now. That's going to ramp up with the action and the storytelling. I'm definitely excited to get the next issue out, finish up this intro arc, and really get into a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff that we've been talking about for the past 6 years now, 5-6 years.
Same here. Just hit the ground running, pumping out position.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for listening to this special episode of, what did I call this shit? Behind the
Pages.
All right. Edit. Sorry. It's a lot of work.
Oh, good.
Get your links and shit anyway. Thank you for joining us for this very special first episode of Behind the Pages. Please tune in. There's many more. If you came to us through the comic and you just want to hear these comic episodes, they'll be on the next issue. Always going to have an episode to come out with a book. If you want to learn more about just us and kind of the stuff we got going on here, check out the rest of the episodes we've got. Thank you all for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe. Make sure you check us out wherever podcasts are available, on social media. All the links in the description. And until next time, it's been me, your boy C-Ro Money, that's C.RO $.
And me, your boy Codename Comic. Y'all have a great one.
And thank you again for joining us, Mike.
Appreciate you, big dog.
And we out here.
Yeah.
See.